Hey everybody, bulk sorting Chase here, TCG Bulk Kings, and I'm working on sorting through this big stack of Flesh and Blood cards right now. But I got a comment the other day that I wanted to make a video about, and I've been trying to figure out how to make a video about it, and I figured that I just need to slot it in while I'm working on something and just make this kind of an unedited um, stream of consciousness type of thing. I couldn't really script a video about this without it coming across in a way that wasn't really how I wanted it to. So we're gonna do it this way, and I'm just gonna talk about it for a little bit. So the comment is here. I'll put it on the screen here for you, and I'll read it real quick. And I'm not putting the commenter on blast or anything like that, so I'm not putting their information on there. I'm not deleting the comment either. If you really need to go find it, then whatever. Don't harass this commenter or anything. Just using this as a vehicle to try and address a mindset thing. So the comment reads, "Is it just me, or is TCG Player horrible? I have over 100 sales on it, and I'm positive I'm losing quite a bit of money. I have people take advantage of buyer protection, demanding that I give them $9 shipping labels for $3 cards, or else they'll keep it and leave negative feedback. Also, this $1.31 shipping fee that I cannot change is horrible too. Let me take responsibility for myself if I want it to be set to 0. If I change prices to accommodate for shipping and then someone buys $5 plus of stuff, I lose like $1 a card, and a lot of the stuff I sell is on the cheaper end. If I set it at marketplace, then nothing sells. TCG Player's been rubbing me wrong for a while. Is there something better, or am I done collecting and selling cards?" Okay, so I have thoughts. I feel like there's two ways that I could take this, because a lot of the information in this is a little bonkers, and I'm not. Like, the two ways I can take it is that, one, this could be a comment left in bad faith with a bunch of made up numbers and made up, I don't think that's what's going on here. So just to be clear, I don't think that this is someone who's just trying to badmouth TCG Player or trying to make stuff up to start controversy or whatever. What I think is going on is that this person, the seller, jumped in with both feet, and they just aren't quite educated on what's going on, and they need some help, because a lot of this information just isn't accurate. So I wanted to go through and address that and address the mindset issue, because that's what's really getting to me here. So just to address the details in this to start with, you have 100 sales on TCG Player and you're positive you're losing quite a bit of money. Well, just phrasing it that way doesn't make it sound like you're positive, like you actually know whether or not you're losing quite a bit of money. So, for one, it sounds like you need to actually have a handle on how much everything costs, how much you're paying for your cards, how much you're getting after fees. It doesn't sound like you really have a grasp on the financials of your transactions. And it's not fun to dig into that, but it's necessary if you're going to be doing this, especially on the low-end transaction, higher volume of transaction realm. So saying you have 100 sales on it and you're positive you're losing quite a bit of money, you either know you are and you can reassess it, or you don't know and you need to figure it out one way or the other, right? You have people that take advantage of buyer protection, demanding you give them $9 shipping labels for $3 cards, or else they keep it and leave negative feedback. So that's not really how the buyer protection works, for one. I'm approaching 60,000 completed transactions on TCG Player on my TCG Bulk Kings account. I had an account before that under a different name that I had a few hundred transactions on as well. And I've never had that happen. Not once. For one, I've never had anybody try to hold me hostage that way. For two, TCG Player doesn't accept it when people do that. From what I understand, you can just escalate it, and even if they leave negative feedback, then they will remove the feedback. So that's not something you have to be concerned about. For three, the $9 shipping labels, as far as I know, don't exist for the types of transactions we're doing. Like, even if you send it Ground Advantage in a bubble mailer, you're looking at $4 or $5, right? You're not going to send something in a flat rate envelope for, you know, the size for legal documents or whatever. They can demand it all they want. You're not required to provide that. And if they leave negative feedback because you didn't spend $9 on a shipping label and you got it to them for, you know, a stamp and it's fine, then TCG Player will take care of you, not the other way around. And I fully am willing to admit you probably didn't know that. And, you know, when you do get a complaint from a customer, especially your first complaints like that, or your first aggressive pushbacks on anything, it can be really scary and traumatizing and difficult to deal with. I have a pretty thick skin for that kind of thing because I worked in retail for 15 years before I started doing this. So, yeah, it's not something that you really need to be concerned about. You're not required to put a tracking number on, or, you know, ship with a tracking number on an order through TCG Player until the order is $50, and they only suggest it at $20. I tend to do it on orders over $20 just because I think that's a better customer service look, but it's not necessary. I would be, you know, worried about sending a $40 card in a plain white envelope personally, just because I also prefer the protection of having the tracking available. But on a $3 card, they're paying $3 for a card. They aren't paying $9 extra for shipping, so they can kick rocks, right? The shipping fees. Now, that's a more complicated thing. I think that there could be a lot more controls the TCG Player allows for how the shipping fees work and how people can set their shipping. I personally like to have as close to free shipping as possible. So I do the TCG Player free over $5 shipping, and it's $1.31 mandatory on orders under $5. And you say if you change prices to accommodate for shipping, and then someone buys for $5 plus of stuff, you lose like $1 a card. So I assume this means like on an order of like 3 cards or something like that. Again, you're not shipping it properly if you're losing $1 a card on a $5 order for 3 cards. You shouldn't be spending more than $1 to ship that. You should be making, you know, $3 plus on that order. I don't have a whiteboard or a piece of paper in front of me to break it down. It's not the scope of this video, but clearly, you know, you're taking steps that are costing you too much money, or you're just not understanding where the money is going in and out. So, like, your conclusion, though, that's the real big thing that I wanted to get to, is the mindset issue. because look, you're 100 sales in, and, you say over 100. I don't want to be cynical and say 101, but 100 to 150 sales in, right? You're just getting started. That's really not that much. You haven't had very much practice at this. You have done enough to start having enough information to be able to make decisions. That's it. And the first conclusion you're coming to, while it's apparent that you have not actually gathered all the data that you need to make decisions, your first decision you come to is that this platform is terrible. I mean, if you think about it that way, that means like thousands of other sellers are all just, pissing into the wind, to use a phrase, and just blowing money, and they're not doing anything right, and they just keep doing it irrationally, and they don't understand what they're doing. None of these cards I'm sorting out are going to sell for over $1 per card. So, obviously I must not think that TCG Player is horrible. I'm doing all this to sell these on both TCG Player and my own website. Obviously, I don't think TCG Player is horrible. I have a lot of use and respect and make a lot of money selling on TCG Player in this level of cards. So you can look at this and see it one of two ways. Either you're doing everything perfectly and the platform is responsible for you not making money, or you're not good at it yet and you need to take some steps and look at what you're doing and understand what you're doing and make some decisions about what you need to change. Because if it's true that you're not making money, then you are the source of your not making money, right? I understand there's the line from the old Rush song, blame is better to give than receive. But here in this case, you got to look at yourself. Not point a finger at somebody else, but point your thumb back at yourself. Because lots of people do this successfully, and this isn't something that... Lots of people do this successfully, and the fact that you aren't being successful is not the fault of the platform. It's the fault of you not adapting to the platform. And I just wanted to try and, make sure that we had that mindset issue addressed, because there's I hate to see you give up on it just because you think that you're being ripped off, or think that the platform is somehow exploiting you, and then move on to the next thing, and then think the same thing on that, and then move on to the next thing and think the same thing on that, and so on and so on. If I can stop that cycle, then I'm more than happy to do so. The lesson here isn't like, this platform is bad, that platform is bad, whatever. And this is not to discount your experience. If you have had people trying to shake you down for over shipping your cards, then that's a problem. But that's a problem you just need to report up to TCG Player. It's not something you're doing wrong. It's not something that's really an expectation you have to meet. If you're losing money on your orders, you're not selling your orders for your cards because you're pricing them too high, then you need to figure that out and look at things. And, again, that's not to say that TCG Player is the perfect platform for you. There isn't a perfect platform for everybody. There isn't... I'm not saying that you have to sell on TCG Player. I'm not, there are other places to sell cards if you want to sell cards. There are other things to do besides selling cards if you want to do something else. You have to go where your brain can work just as much as you have to go where the customers are. So, like TCG Player, I had a really hard time adapting to selling on eBay, and I didn't for far too long because it was so different from how TCG Player works. And I had a really hard time with it. And I'm still not great at it, still not perfect at it, but I'm learning and I'm adapting. Because I want to sell on eBay as well as TCG Player. But yeah, TCG Player isn't if TCG Player isn't going to work for you, if you're just not going to be able to wrap your head around it, don't try and put your energy into it, at least at the start. Pick something that's a little easier for your brain to work on. It's like learning a language, right? If you just want to learn a language that isn't your native language, and it doesn't matter to you which one, it might as well be one that's easy for people who speak your language to learn, right? You don't need to go from English to Japanese right away. You could go into Dutch or Spanish or Frisian, right? Languages that are easy for English speakers to learn. If it doesn't matter to you where you sell cards, you just want to sell cards, and your brain has a hard time with wrapping itself around TCG Player, sell on eBay, sell on another platform, sell on Facebook, sell at shows. If none of that works for you, maybe selling cards isn't the right thing. But to blame TCG Player for being TCG Player when thousands and thousands of other sellers have a lot of success on TCG Player is just short-sighted and audacious, right? It's saying that you with your 100+ sales knows more about how this works than everybody else who's ever sold on the marketplace ever. And everyone's just deluding themselves into thinking it's not horrible, right? Again, I'm not saying that it's not horrible for you, that it might not be the best place for you to sell, but it is, it's definitely not something where you can put the blame on the platform because you are having a hard time learning the platform. That's pretty much all I had for this. If you have questions, if you have, anything like that you need advice on, leave comments on this video. Sellers who are more successful, if you have advice to give to the people who leave questions on this video, please do. I'm happy to answer questions, but sometimes the questions can get a little overwhelming. Please help me out, answer some questions for some people. If you have questions, feel free to ask them here. Me or somebody else will get to them. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's pretty much all I had for this. I just finished alpha sorting these cards, so now I need to go through my A stack and get those sorted out. Y'all have a great day.